Tonight, breaking news on a medical crisis. The Royal Children's Hospital's urgent message for parents. Details live. Melbourne's violent night. A young tradie killed on a packed St Kilda beach. Thugs on the run after stabbing a 15-year-old in a brutal home invasion. A plea from fans left injured in Fed Square chaos as the Socceroos come home. Live coverage. And an injury blow for Pies star Jordan De Goey.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news on an unfolding health emergency at the Royal Children's Hospital, buckling under a surge of sick patients. Bethan Yeoman has the latest from the RCH. And Beth, the hospital is pleading with families to take their children elsewhere.
Mitch, sick children are being forced to wait up to 12 hours for help as the RCH struggles to cope with unprecedented demand for care. The hospital says it's been overwhelmed by a high number of presentations of extremely unwell children. They're asking families to seek alternative care if possible. But they do stress the most seriously ill children will be given priority treatment. There are currently more than 90 patients in the emergency department. Most only arrived this afternoon, which has triggered this crisis.
We have seen an increased number of viral infections, not COVID, but other type of viral infections that we don't tend to see as much of at this time of year. We're used to dealing with demand at the hospital and rising to that demand, but it's been quite a period of time where we've seen presentations to our emergency department close to or exceeding 300 patients per day. And that creates challenges when you're dealing with a lot of acuity in the inpatient space.
The advice for parents is to try online telehealth or nurse on call as alternatives. But if you do feel your child is critically ill, always call 000. Mitch.
Bethan Yeoman at Parkville, thank you. An 18-year-old tradie has been stabbed to death on a crowded St Kilda foreshore. Beachgoers watched on in horror as emergency crews desperately tried to save the teenager.
St Kilda Beach was packed with families enjoying a warm summer night when a violent confrontation turned to tragedy. Police found 18-year-old Hashim Mohammed with critical stab wounds. The knife used to kill him was still lodged in his back. Officers worked frantically to save the teenager, but he died soon after arriving at the Alfred Hospital, leaving a grieving family behind.
I was at home, so I just heard the call that happened to him. Yeah, it does break your heart.
Just last Friday, Hashim Mohammed was celebrating after getting his driver's licence. He was studying to be a tradesman.
Just his presence, 18 is very young. Could have done so much, could have achieved so much more on this earth. It is a very violent and brutal way that he did pass away.
I'm not going to hide away from this. It's a pretty traumatic event for not only for those involved, but the people who have witnessed this.
I was just amazed. One guy kicked one of them who was standing up in the head, like a karate kick.
Detectives are now probing whether the deadly attack was gang-related. 7 News understands the victim had links to a gang in Melbourne's west, but had wanted to break free and focus on his fledgling career.
We believe the incident was a result of a fight between approximately 5 to 6 African males. And we believe there are a number of knives involved in this incident. We will bring these people to justice. It's a horrible incident to be done in the public.
And Cassie Zervos has the latest on the manhunt. Cassie, detectives are closing in.
Well, Met Police tell me it's only a matter of time until they catch those responsible. The entire attack was captured on nearby security cameras, including this specialised real-time CCTV police system. From the moment the gang arrived to when they fled, every moment was recorded, including when some of the alleged attackers escaped on nearby public transport. So they want to reassure the community an arrest is imminent and there's no ongoing threat. Mitch.
Cassie Zervos at St Kilda, thank you. The family of slain father Paul Vergona has broken down in tears as a bikie hitman was found guilty of murdering him in an Eastlink ambush. It was a carefully planned attack, but police suspect it was a case of mistaken identity.
Grieving a husband and father, Paul Vagona's family say the pain of their sudden loss is always with them.
It's a start. It's a start.
Was it what you expected today?
Yeah.
After deliberating for less than a day, a jury found Aaron Ong guilty of murder. Prosecutors told the court there was nothing in Mr Vagona's background to explain why he was targeted and killed. Ong and his co-accused, Josh Ryder, had links to an outlaw motorcycle gang. Mr Vagona did not. The jury watched footage of a Mercedes trailing the father's van on Eastlink before it was sprayed with 11 bullets. Footage also captured the Mercedes being dumped in Muralbark and torched. Ong had many supporters in court. He had maintained he wasn't in the car stalking Vagona, but the jury decided he was lying. They were told the accused man had Googled the shooting just hours after Mr Vagona was killed. The court hearing he searched Melbourne breaking news and shooting Eastlink on his housemate's laptop. It can now be revealed his co-accused Josh Ryder had previously pleaded guilty to murder over the execution-style shooting. Before the jury entered the courtroom, the judge warned Aaron Ong's supporters and Paul Vagona's family that emotional outbursts wouldn't be tolerated. The courtroom was silent when the guilty verdict was announced, and Aaron Ong shook his head slowly. Ong will return to court in March for a pre-sentence hearing. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
Porsche driver Richard Pusey will be freed from prison within days. He was sentenced to 10 months behind bars for sending graphic photos of dying police officers to the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. The images were taken at the scene of the Eastern Freeway tragedy in 2020. With time already served, he's expected to be released from prison in the next week. Soccer fans injured by burning flares at Fed Square have pleaded for stronger security to protect crowds. They were packed in with thousands of others and had no room to move when flares were set off around them.
In the Fed Square chaos, this is the moment Sam Rogan is hit by a burning flare. He runs to mates for help. Begging for water to cool his arm. This is what happened to Mr Rogan's skin.
Sheer panic. That's all I can explain it.
He and his friends were among 15,000 jammed into Fed Square for Australia's World Cup match yesterday. Unlike Amy Park's live site, there were no bag checks. Sam Rogan estimates at least 40 flares were set off in Fed Square.
I've had a few stove burns and nothing compares to this one. It feels like actual fire that's hit your skin, and then when you look down and see your skin bubbling and stuff, it's not fun to experience.
Flares can burn at more than 1,000 degrees. Fire alarms went off when several were thrown onto the canopy below the big screen. Mr Rogan's friend was hit in the eye. Both ended up in hospital.
Flares are part of soccer culture, and I do understand that. But at the same time, there's a bit of common sense not to, throw a flare.
Doctors have told him to keep his arm out of direct sunlight for 3 months while it heals. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
The number of Victorians in hospital with COVID is at its highest since August. There are now 703 people in hospital. That's up 83 on yesterday and 124 since Saturday. The number of daily cases was just over 3,000. Experts say there are multiple variants circulating, leading to patchy outbreaks rather than a sharp increase in case numbers. Health Minister Mary-Ann Thomas has lost responsibility for ambulances as the service battles with code reds and frequent ramping. The portfolio has been handed over as part of the Premier's New Look cabinet.
A selfie for the family as Daniel Andrews is sworn in as Premier for the 3rd time. Mary-Ann Thomas loses responsibility for ambulance services to Gabrielle Williams. The Premier denies it's because of ongoing ramping, code red and 000 issues.
We're already seeing some improvements already and it's just about trying to consolidate that.
Everyone make sure you can see the camera, please.
Extra responsibilities for most ministers, but major portfolios are unchanged. Jacinta Allen retains transport infrastructure, Tim Pallas Treasury, Mary Ann Thomas Health. Lily D'Ambrosio adds reintroducing the SEC to her responsibilities. The two new ministers, Enver Erdogan gets corrections, Natalie Suleiman, small business. The Premier confirmed both Houses of Parliament will sit on December 20th for swearing-in ceremonies and to hear the Governor's speech. The new Cabinet met, as analysts predicted, disgraced former Labor Minister Adam Somyurek will win an upper house seat for the DLP. So the government will have to negotiate with him to pass legislation. But today, clearly no thaw in the relationship.
But as for that individual, I've got no comment to make about him.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Brittany Higgins is suing 2 former ministers and the Commonwealth for $3 million in damages over her alleged sexual assault inside Parliament House. Ms Higgins is pursuing a civil court claim against Senators Linda Reynolds and Michaelia Cash. She's seeking compensation for economic loss and out-of-pocket expenses following the collapse of the rape trial against Bruce Lerriman. It's understood Mr Lerriman is also considering legal action for unfair dismissal. Relief from skyrocketing power bills could arrive as early as this week. A plan between Canberra and the states would see gas and electricity prices capped for up to 18 months. But to complicate things, the Prime Minister has just announced he has COVID.
The only thing going up faster than electricity prices is the energy giant's profits.
This is a shared problem and it needs a shared solution.
The energy companies will be asked to do their share this week as National Cabinet considers a price cap on coal and tough new regulations on gas, knowing that while families face crippling power bills, Whitehaven Coal has made a record $2.9 billion profit this year and gas giant Santos $1.8 billion.
The idea that you have super profits being made at the same time as businesses are going out of business is quite frankly just not tenable.
The premiers of 2 major coal and gas producing states say they'll share the burden.
I want to work with them to help find a national solution.
I'm happy to go to that table at National Cabinet with an open mind.
As long as the federal government opens its chequebook with compensation for any revenue lost to price caps.
There would have to be adequate compensation.
I don't want to see the taxpayers of New South Wales shortchanged.
And those booming coal and gas prices also mean booming taxes.
Over the next 4 years, the budget is looking $70 billion healthier.
A revenue power load that might help cut power prices. National Cabinet was to be a face-to-face meeting with a dinner for the premiers tomorrow night at Kirribilli House. Not anymore. Late today, the Prime Minister announcing he has COVID again. A routine test this afternoon coming back positive. The Prime Minister says he'll be isolating but continuing to work from home. The meeting will now most likely be virtual. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Thugs are on the run after stabbing a 15-year-old boy in a home invasion in Melbourne's west. Witnesses say there were up to 35 young men armed with machetes and knives in the street at the time of the early morning attack.
Armed thugs on the run. Just seconds after a violent home invasion in Brookfield. Security cameras show 3 carloads of young men speeding away, leaving a 15-year-old stab victim behind.
Opened my front door, I saw like 35 boys standing outside the street, and they all had like machetes and hand axes in their hands.
Police say the group broke into the Citronelle Circuit home just before 5 o'clock this morning. Residents inside fought back, and that's when the teen was stabbed.
Definitely, I was scared because, I live by myself.
A resident of the home ran to neighbours for help, but by the time police arrived, the intruders had gone. A witness too scared to be identified says the victim's brother hid in his garage until the alleged offenders had left. Slashed tyres and a bloodied rag, evidence of another violent night in Melbourne's west.
Don't feel safe in living in this area anymore. Particularly this area has been a target for the gangs for a while.
The teenage stab victim is recovering in the Royal Children's Hospital. He's expected to make a full recovery. Hope Wilson, 7 News.
The Reserve Bank Board is expected to deliver more bad news for mortgage holders when it meets for the final time this year. Finance Editor Gemma Acton has been crunching the numbers ahead of tomorrow's decision.
Well, it's been a busy year for the Reserve Bank, hiking its cash rate 7 times in 7 months, from just 0.10% in May to the current 2.85%. Tomorrow is the board's last chance until next February to push through another increase. Some economists argue they could pause this month, encouraged by the latest inflation figures coming in lower than expected. But most expect we will get another 0.25% hike tomorrow, taking the cash rate to 3.1%. Inflation still remains far above the RBA's target, and experts say the strong labour market, with a jobless rate at a 48-year low, shows the economy can handle it. Most economists are betting on the cash rate peaking in the first half of next year at 4% or below.
Gemma Acton reporting. Brisbane Lions coach Chris Fagan has broken his silence on accusations over racism claims dating back to his time under Alistair Clarkson at Hawthorn.
Can I say to you, once and for all, that I'm not going to continue to talk about this. I've signed a confidentiality deed poll, and I'm not going to play this out in public. They say that a clear conscience is a great sedative, and I'm sleeping well.
The investigation isn't expected to be completed until early next year. The Socceroos have just arrived home, fresh from their World Cup heroics in Qatar. Blake Johnson is at Melbourne Airport, and Blake, they've won over thousands of new fans.
They did, Pete, and 3 of the Socceroos players are on the Qatar Airways flight that landed about 3 minutes ago here at Melbourne Airport. Just 36 hours after their World Cup campaign came to an end at the hands of Argentina. For the players in the A-League, not a lot of downtime for them. They'll rejoin their team pretty quickly. For those who play in Europe, they'll get a bit of a break while the World Cup's on, then they'll return to Europe to play. We're hoping to speak to the players once they come out, so we need the baggage handlers to be on top of their game tonight, so that can happen sooner rather than later. We'll see you soon.
Good on you, Blake, at Tullamarine. Thank you. There's major injury drama at Collingwood. Tim Watson, one of the Pies' biggest stars, has gone under the knife.
He has. Mitch. Jordan De Goey won't train for the rest of the year. Chief football reporter Tom Brown has the details. And Tom, it's a shock surgery for the Collingwood star.
Tim, just to explain, the entire Collingwood squad was back at training today. Now, a notable absentee, a surprise absentee, was Jordan De Goey, who had successful surgery this afternoon on his right shoulder, a small arthroscope. Now, De Goey's had the best part of 9 weeks off. He's recently taken up golf. He's been to Bali, where he trained with the local club. It was already sore post that Sydney preliminary finals loss. The obvious question why it wasn't done earlier, Collingwood and his management explaining to me that they were hoping it would calm down and wouldn't require surgery. It unfortunately has, although it was a fairly minor procedure. Collingwood hoping De Goey now will return to full training early in the new year, post-Christmas, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. We'll check back with you soon. Also ahead in sports, see how Dustin Martin fared as the Tigers are put through a dreaded time trial. The little-known Aussie paceman given a surprise call-up to the Test squad, and Steph Curry has sent the NBA world into a frenzy again. We'll explain why soon.
OK, we'll see you then. Thank you, Tim. Victoria's facing a Christmas tree crunch, with suppliers warning they could be out of stock this weekend. Details are next. Also coming up, the truck mishap that caused big Bayside headaches. The massive Outback project peering deep into our universe. Later, the world-first saliva test that could save your life.
And I'll show you which day is the chilly one this week and when it'll warm up again later on 7 News.
A jackknifed truck caused peak hour traffic trouble in Brighton after the driver lost control this morning. The 30-year-old truckie escaped unharmed and no one else was injured. St Kilda Street, though, was blocked for hours as emergency crews worked to right the truck. Victoria's facing a Christmas tree shortage, with unprecedented demand pushing up prices for this festive season. Stock is so low that some suppliers are expecting to sell out this weekend.
The classic Christmas tree in high demand and selling fast.
The first 2 weekends have just been
unprecedented. It's just been unbelievable.
But this year's La Nina weather has led to reduced stock and stunted growth.
We really didn't get a spring this year. We had a winter which really went from 3 months to 6 months, and unfortunately we didn't have the good spring growth that we normally get.
That's why we came earlier this year, and we've managed to find this one.
There's also been a price increase.
We've had to increase a few dollars because some of the incidental costs we couldn't absorb.
An average size Christmas tree will cost around $70 at most tree farms, while buying from inner city Melbourne could cost up to $130. For the first time in 30 years, the North Pole Christmas Farm expects their premium trees to sell out this week, leaving limited stock in the lead up to Christmas.
We probably will be looking at running out of trees this year.
Get out now or you'll have none.
Christmas champagne is also in limited supply, with no more bottles arriving from France until the new year.
COVID slowed everything down, production of bottles, production of wine, production of labels. Consumption went up, supply went down.
Some stores even setting customer limits on popular bubbly brands to make sure there's enough cheer to go around. Ellie Wicks, 7 News.
1 million Australians will receive a cash boost when Centrelink payments increase from January the 1st. The youth allowance is set to rise between $19 and $41 a fortnight, in line with inflation. Those on AusStudy will pocket between $32 and $41 more. The disability support pension will also increase between $27 and $40 for those under 21 without children. One of the biggest scientific projects of the 21st century is being built in Australia's outback. The giant radio telescope is designed to capture the secrets of the universe and look for extraterrestrial life.
You're looking at the future of looking into the past. The first step of the Square Kilometre Array, the world's largest radio telescope. There are no lenses, only antennas.
Allowing us to look back in time over the history of the universe and potentially see the very first stars and galaxies when they first started to shine.
The array will be a spiral with 3 giant arms, measuring 74 kilometres between each of the furthest points, made up of 512 clusters of 256 antennas, a staggering 131,072 receivers, to look back 1 billion years into the celestial unknown.
The bigger the collecting area, the smaller the object you can see. And so again, having the radio telescope cover an area about 74 kilometres across means we can see really small detail on the sky.
Construction in the Murchison Shire begins today, one of the few places in the world that has the space and, crucially, is so remote.
People bring with them phones and cars and microwaves and fridges, all of which make noise electronically, which mean that we can't detect the very faint signals from the dawn of the universe.
It'll take 8 years to transform this barren outback into the world's largest telescope, where antennas like this will stretch beyond the horizon, unlocking secrets beyond our imagination, to even uncover extraterrestrial intelligence.
If there were, say, an airport radar on a planet circling a star tens of light years away, we would be able to detect that.
Looking back from the outback, in Murchison, Ben Downey, 7 News.
Santa has made a return to the Royal Children's Hospital for the first time since 2019. The young and young at heart were able to share their Christmas wishes, some out of the ordinary.
A big long snake that can move.
It's just fantastic for everyone. It just brings joy and excitement and fun that, you know, this time of year is really, really important, and especially after the last couple of years.
Indeed. The lights of the special 9-metre high Christmas tree were also switched on. Melbourne's rental crisis is set to worsen. Next on 7 News, why the number of homes for rent is hitting new lows. Also coming up, a former AFL star vows to fight drugs charges. And a class action. The Melbourne students inspired to shave together to save together. Former AFL star Sam Fisher is set to stand trial over his alleged role in sending a kilogram of ice to Perth. The ex-Saint is accused of concealing the drug in an oven range hood, but has pleaded not guilty. He's been ordered to continue with rehabilitation and twice-weekly drug testing as a condition of his bail. Victorians battling to find a rental home are being warned that it may be about to get even harder. Experts say an influx of foreign students and migrants will put even greater pressure on the already low rental stock.
A two-bedroom townhouse up for lease in trendy North Fitzroy.
This door here does slide open.
It's not a hard sell.
Properties like these, you can see up to 40 or 50 people.
Vacancy rates in Melbourne are at an all-time low, down to 1.1%.
The vacancy rate has basically just tipped over to the same as it was immediately pre-COVID. It was our sort of record low, and we've just come back to that level.
December is peak time for renting when traditionally more properties come up for lease, but it's not expected to last. The new year is forecast to bring an influx of new residents, including migrants and international students.
We also have a lot of people who are returning to city work and are wanting to now be closer to work and off public transport.
It's likely that we are going to see that vacancy rate continue to shrink in 2023. I think it's very competitive.
And as the market tightens, rents are tipped to rise. They're already at a record high.
Tenants are going to have to brace themselves for further rent hikes.
The tight rental market is a double-edged sword. Although it makes life harder for renters, it does make investing in real estate more attractive. And experts say that will ultimately lead to more rental properties like this one coming onto the market.
When you've got gross rental yields improving off the back of higher asking rents and we've got a softening property market overall for sales, it can be very luring for an investor.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Indonesia's highest volcano has erupted, forcing thousands to evacuate their homes. The sun was blocked when Mount Semeru began pushing volcanic ash more than a kilometre into the sky. There have been no reports of serious injuries. Lava is also continuing to flow on Hawaii's Big Island after it became active last week. The site has drawn crowds of tourists, while locals held a ceremony hoping to calm the volcano. And 3 Chinese astronauts have returned to Earth after a 6-month mission. The trio spent most of their time in space overlooking construction of China's space station. A new crew has already been sent up to replace them. Down on Earth, there's been a buzz around Sandringham East Primary School as students banded together for a class action with a difference. Year 5 students were cutting off their hair to help thousands of sick children.
13 kids very much in love with their long locks. Yeah! But today they steeled themselves to lose it all.
I love my hair so much.
It all started from a classroom discussion about gratitude and quickly became a plan to shave their heads for charity.
I think for them it's a big deal because it's a chance for them to actually do something that involves personal sacrifice.
They chose to raise money for the Very Special Kids charity.
Is anybody scared?
No! The cause is close to their hearts. The charity helps Isabel Rowland's brother Mitchell.
He was born with a bleed in the brain and now he's got epilepsy.
The family was watching as they all got the clip.
It means so much to us.
Very Special Kids doesn't receive much government funding, so it's largely reliant on community support and fundraising just like this. The kids here have set a high bar. They're aiming to raise at least $9,000.
We want to give them the best life they can.
A class activity they won't soon forget. Beth Yeoman, 7 News.
A Melbourne medical breakthrough is detecting diseases long before we get them. Exclusive details on the life-saving world first are next on 7 News. Also coming up, searching for answers, the health system facing tough questions over the death of a little girl. A husband to fight charges over his wife's honeymoon death on Hamilton Island. And later, live coverage as Australia's inspirational Socceroos come home. Coroner is investigating why a 12-year-old girl died after she spent 4 days in a regional hospital in 2019.
We believe Sasha didn't get the chance she deserved for the medical treatment she needed and was let down by Child's Protection and by the regional hospital.
The girl was transferred to the Royal Children's Hospital but died from complications of the flu, pneumonia and septicemia. A husband has pleaded not guilty over his wife's death on their Hamilton Island honeymoon. Robbie Awad is facing charges over the golf buggy rollover that killed Marina Hanna. He didn't turn up to today's court hearing. His lawyer blamed logistical issues, but the magistrate demanded he be connected via phone. Awad pleaded not guilty to careless driving. The share market finished high today with a boost from increasing iron ore prices. Network Finance editor Gemma Acton explains.
Thanks, Peter. A solid start to the week with the ASX 200 building on its 7-month high, adding 24 points to reach 7,326. Fortescue set the pace, following the price of iron ore higher. The Aussie dollar is also inching upwards. It's now buying around 68.4 US cents, while the Chinese government, stepping in with support for its embattled property sector, is supporting commodities. And despite Australians spending up big in the recent Black Friday sales, the Retailers Association thinks we've got more left in the tank. They're forecasting pre-Christmas sales across Australia will grow by 6%, setting a new record of $66 billion. Peter.
Thanks, Gemma. Melbourne scientists have invented a world-first test to predict the chance of developing serious diseases. It's hoped the saliva test will save lives by alerting people to the likelihood of contracting cancer or heart conditions.
The simplest of tests to predict your medical future. From a saliva sample, scientists can now establish a patient's chances of developing serious illnesses.
This is one of the most amazing and exciting developments that will reshape preventative healthcare for the future.
A person's DNA is extracted from the sample. Their age, family and medical history are evaluated and a risk profile is built.
This test, in combination with the clinical risk factors and all of the genetic markers that we've identified, is a world first. It's absolutely game-changing.
Via their GP, a patient is advised whether they have a low, moderate or high chance of developing up to 6 conditions, including coronary artery disease and type 2 diabetes, as well as breast, ovarian, colorectal and prostate cancers.
I think we need a better tool than just going by family history, and I've been searching for this.
The results are being used to identify high-risk patients who need more regular checkups.
We want to make sure we catch a breast cancer early because early diagnosis saves lives.
Screening for the 6 conditions costs $500 and the company is waiting for regulatory approval to add pancreatic cancer, melanoma and atrial fibrillation to its test regime.
It's a tool that identifies somebody's individual risk versus the population.
One that could help save lives. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Sport is next with Tim Watson, and Tim Brendan Gale has a subtle message for AFL House.
Mitch, there's plenty on the agenda here from the Tigers boss. Next, also, Jordan De Goey's not the only injury concern for the Pies, who are looking left field for a new ruckman. The Premiership Stars hit the track as they begin their quest to go back-to-back. The Aussie paceman dubbed the wild thing, given a shot call up to the Test squad. And debate rages over a viral basketball stunt from downtown. The AFL's off-season troubles have caused concern at Clubland. Returning to Tom Brown and Tom, Richmond CEO Brendan Gale has spoken on the recent league issues.
Tim, that's right. Understandably, a lot of the league focus at the moment on the Hawthorn racism investigation. Now, I understand Alistair Clarkson and Chris Fagan are unlikely now to be interviewed until post-Christmas. The complainants have also been given extra time to prepare for this series of interviews and the hearing. Now, Brendan Gale spoke and addressed this issue today. He wouldn't be drawn on his interest in Gil McLachlan's job, obviously a candidate behind the scenes. But he did give a subtle message to the AFL explaining that some of the delay now and some of the other issues that clubs are experiencing, look, clubs can handle it, but it's a potential source of concern in clubland. Things like club distribution and also the salary cap. Also some uncertainty still regarding the fixture, which will be released, the rest of it, later this week. He was also asked Gale about Damien Hardwick, who's overseas at the moment, but keen next season to atone for the Tigers' disappointing and uncharacteristic year this year.
There's a lot of other things that are uncertain at the moment. I mean, we don't have a fixture, we don't have a salary cap, we don't have club distributions confirmed, but that's okay. We can make some assumptions around that and we just get on with it. He wasn't that enthusiastic about the way we finished up last year. It was an uncharacteristic year and I think we're looking forward to sort of a tone.
Now, Tim, the senior players, the Richmond's entire squad, in fact, had the time trial, as you can see. Dustin Martin was back enthusiastic. He's finished around midfield, finished off quite strongly, but this was impressive. Tim Taranto, their prize recruit from the Giants, won that time trial in around 6 minutes and 15 seconds on the grass 2Ks this morning. And just finally, Buddy Franklin, a notable absentee from Sydney's first session back. Buddy just had a little bit of finger surgery in the off-season. He's been given an extra week as the oldest member of the Swans squad. He'll be back next week. The Swans also back at training as it all ramps up today, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Collingwood's search to replace Brodie Grundy has taken a twist, turning to a beach volleyballer for a chance to earn a spot on the list, while Jordan De Goey's absence because of shoulder surgery wasn't the only concern for the Pies.
He's the tall timber that turned heads at Pies training this afternoon. Former beach volleyballer Max Gura trialling with the club with a Category B rookie contract up for grabs.
For those guys, it'll be their ruck stuff, their competitiveness, their follow-up, their stuff early as well. We'll be looking at those sort of things.
Nick Dacos was on light duties after picking up an Achilles nickel last week. First day back for Patrick Dangerfield and his premiership-winning teammates, but veteran Tom Hawkins was a notable absentee. The forward trained indoors as he continues his recovery from foot surgery. The Cats say it's unclear when he'll be back to full training. Jake Stringer's troublesome groin has him on a modified program until after Christmas as the Davey name returned to Essendon. Alwyn Jr. touched down, ready to follow in Dad's footsteps.
Oh, Dad was a bit emotional, he's a bit quiet, but I know that he's very proud of the decision that we made and how far we've gone.
Rookie Anthony Munkara has been living with Anthony McDonald-Tipungwuti since arriving in Melbourne from the Tiwi Islands last week. Pre-season officially kicked off at Carlton today, but senior players have been on track for 2 weeks, desperate to find an edge after missing finals last season.
The way it finished definitely brings on some motivation for this season and this pre-season. So a lot of guys have come back in really good shape and motivation levels are really high.
Sam Walsh won't return to training until after Christmas as he continues to deal with a back complaint. Natalie Yannidis, 7 News.
The fastest bowler in the country has emerged as a shock wildcard for Australia's second test. Pat Cummins is a 50-50 prospect with a quad injury. Ashes hero Scott Boland and the unheralded Lance Morris are ready and waiting for a call-up.
Carrying an ice recovery machine if the Aussie captain had his way.
I think it's a pretty good chance. I'll be good for Adelaide.
The Aussie coach, though, not so sure.
So we feel as though he's 50-50 for the next test match.
With a test average of 9.5, Scott Boland is the first in line for an Adelaide call-up. WA tearaway Lance Morris looms as a wild card after being brought into his first test squad.
Genuine surprise. I'd struggled to even pack my kit bag, to be honest. I was absolutely nowhere.
The 24-year-old, known as the Wild Thing, lays claims to being the fastest bowler in the country.
Yeah, I've been clocked 150 quite a few times now.
Knocking over Marnus Labuschagne and Usman Khawaja in the same over back in October, enough to pique selectors' interests. Perennial 12th man Michael Neser also flown into the Aussie setup with back-to-back tests and a hectic summer schedule in mind.
So we've got to respect the short turnaround.
Cummins and Cricket Australia defending the decision to put him out in the field on day 5 in Perth.
Felt okay. I was more not trying to run as opposed to being restricted to run. So we've got a bit tighter. I was going to have a bowl.
Was he at risk out there doing what he was doing? No. And we're talking about a real minor quad strain. It's our captain. We're going to give him every chance.
Literally launching into this year's Big Bash. Renegades captain Nick Maddinson claimed classic catch honours. The Stars kick things off next Tuesday night against the Thunder in Canberra. Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
And the Socceroos are safely home after their thrilling World Cup run in Qatar. Returning to Blake Johnson at Melbourne Airport. And Blake, it was the trip of a lifetime for the players.
Yeah, it sure was, Tim, and what an achievement they did in Qatar for Australia. A wonderful tournament for the Socceroos, unprecedented through to that second round. For just the second time ever, Marco Tilio is one of the squad members. Mate, it was a roller coaster for you. You're in and you're out. How did you rate your World Cup experience?
Yeah, overall unbelievable, and I was just so excited and ecstatic that I was actually there. I think I still pinch myself from all the moments of seeing all these players and taking it all in, and overall it was just a crazy experience. I think I'm going to have to let it all sink in eventually.
Did you see some of the pictures of Fed Square going absolutely bananas over the last week?
Yeah, the scenes at home are amazing. That's the thing we wanted to do, was to unite the nation, and I think we did that with the quality shown on the field in the Qatar, and we're very happy with the way we went about it.
Fair to say you exceeded expectations of the squad?
I think, people can say that. I think for ourselves, we had so much belief in the squad, and the players that played, the players that didn't play, the brotherhood, camaraderie we had in the group. We always had the belief that we could make something special of that tournament, and I think we did that, and hopefully everyone at home appreciates what we've done.
And you're playing for City this weekend?
I think so. Back to reality this weekend. I'm looking forward to it, getting back to the club and obviously getting home tonight.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for chatting to us, and well done over in Qatar. So the Socceroos are home, 3 of them at least, and more coming in the next few days, Tim.
Thanks, Blake. To basketball now, and Steph Curry may have just pulled off his most extraordinary act yet. We'll let you be the judge, though. But it certainly had a lot of NBA fans guessing. We've sped this up to get through all 5 shots from long range. He's knocked down some crazy threes and half-court buzzer beaters before, but this surely tops the lot. Late today, the Warriors have come clean, admitting the clip was carefully edited, Mitch. When something looks too good to be true, you know what they say, don't you?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. It's completely doctored, was it?
Edited is it?
Edited, thank you very much indeed, Tim. Jane Bunn is next with the forecast, and Jane, we're back in another cool stretch.
Absolutely, Mitch. Temperatures have tumbled, and we haven't even reached the coldest part of this one yet. I'll show you what to expect, when to expect that, next. Hello again. Yesterday reached 34.5. Today it didn't even climb to 20. If you look at the temperature range, it really doesn't tell the full story. The min, that's the coolest part of the night. The max is the warmest part of the day. Now that works on a normal day, but not when it's still up on 28 just before midnight. And then the cool change came through. The coolest part was 15 mid-morning. We sat on 16 or 17 for much of the afternoon. Wet weather followed that cool change, so we have grey skies, showers rolling through and cooler air. In strong southwesterly winds, the air is cool and the wind chill is even colder. But we haven't hit the chilliest part of this week. We still have that to look forward to in a few days' time. There is a band of rain, that's light rain moving across Victoria with the cool change, and then showers to follow in the south and some storms up on the ranges. With the temperature, that takes more of a dive in the south. Most are in the teens there this afternoon. Here's that cold front that brought the temperature change. We went from northwest winds that bring warm air from the interior to cool southwesterly ones. A calming high pressure system that'll move through tomorrow, but it's not strong, and the next cold front makes a beeline for us. So it doesn't really thaw out tomorrow or on Wednesday with that high. Then the next front hits late Wednesday, and Thursday is our chilliest day of the week. There'll be snow on the hills in Tasmania. It is still on the cool side on Friday. Then if you're looking for warmer weather, Saturday is when that arrives. Through this, it is not dry, but the rain doesn't add up to much. This week and next week, the drivers of our climate are taking a bit of a break. That's very different to what we had for most of spring. It was Victoria's wettest spring on record, and the cloud from that brought out 6 coldest days on record and our 10th warmest nights on record. Around the nation tomorrow, Northern Australia is in stark contrast to the southeast chill. Heat builds over Brisbane. It lasts for 3 days. It doesn't extend to Sydney or Canberra. Hobart grey, Adelaide mild, Perth is warm. To Victoria, showers continue to stream in across the south and ranges and just up into the northeast. They'll clear during the afternoon. Grey skies gradually break up over the south, while the north is mild and mostly sunny and light to moderate southerly winds. Closer in, the morning looks grey. We've got showers passing through, a bit like conditions today, but it rapidly clears and sunshine returns during the afternoon. So it's a cold morning, grey and showery, a mild afternoon turning sunny and briefly reaching 21. On the 8-day outlook, Wednesday is dry for much of the day, a top of 20. Then showers develop late afternoon into the evening. Showery on Thursday, particularly in the morning. Yes, that's a top of just 15. As we go through Friday, it gradually clears. Saturday is nice, the risk of a late storm, just the odd shower on Sunday. Grey and showery tomorrow morning, then sunshine returns and it briefly reaches 21 tomorrow, but pretty chilly tomorrow morning.
Still throwing a 15 at us. Good on you. Thank you, Jane. Now here's what's on Sunrise in the morning.
Thanks, Mitch. Tomorrow on Sunrise, the new tastes of summer.
Nutrition queen Sarah Di Lorenzo reveals the flavours you'll want to try this Christmas.
See you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Monday, the 5th of December. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.